Now what we are going to do is discuss the daily cost, how to go about inputting cost. And what we do is we start by selecting the day for the costs that we want to have them put in. And we can go here to the third day of October here, and we'll go to the cost. And we can see that we already have something in there, but I'm going to go ahead and delete that and show you how we can copy over something from the previous day. We just come over here and we can go copy previous day's cost. And we got a little error message there because it didn't like something, but it handled it. Now we have a button up here where we can get hours, and if we click that, it gives us a summary of the total hours for the job, for the circulating hours, the below rotary hours, and the drilling hours for 3 different scopes. One is the scope of the entire job, one is for the scope of the bottom hole assembly, and one is for the scope of the day that we currently are on. They are not automatically entered into any of the cost data here, but they are here so that you can quickly calculate what those numbers are should you have to put in a quantity which is based upon one of those numbers. In this case, what we have is a day rate or an engineering charge, and it's a little bit confusing to understand what's going on here because there's 2 groups here, the red groups, and there's 2 lines for each entry. And we have the day rate group, and we have an item identifier. This item identifier could be the date, and it defaults to the date, but I change it to day rate, and I'll show you why in a few minutes. And then this identifier down here is a description that we can use to define what our cost is. And then we have our day, and we have our quantity of units, and then on the line below we have the charge strategy, and the charge strategy can be below rotary hours, day, item, job, whatever you want it to be. And then the quantity is how many of the units that you're selling one day in this case. And then this is an area over here that should normally have zeros in there. Make sure they have zeros and they're not left blank so that the maximum and minimum charges will be, if there is a maximum charge in there, then it will be clipped at that maximum charge, and if there's a minimum charge, then that will be, and the value of what we're calculating is less than that minimum charge, then the charge will be applied as the minimum that you have in there. That's something you might normally use for trucking charges, things like that. And I've already started that line, and it's personnel charge, and the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my name. Let's say that will be the identifier. Now note that you really need to make sure that these are automatically, that you have this in here, and if at the end of the job I want to see how many days I'm going to charge, and then if I have under the item identifier my name in here for every one of them, and it'll be itemized. So I'm going to say this is my engineering charge, and I'm charging for 1 day, and I'm an expensive guy, $2,000 a day, and I'm going to the next one. And also we'll have somebody else in here in personnel, and I'm going to put in my sidekick, and we're going to put that as an engineering charge, and I'm going to put in a cost, a charge method here is going to be by the day, and then I'm going to put in 1 in there. My sidekick's going to get paid $1,000 a day, and I forgot to put in the charge up here, so I just come up here and it's going to be based upon a day charge. And so I have that in there. Now you may have noticed that over here this personnel didn't get filled in right away. It was in there, but it didn't get filled in for some reason. It depends on the computer screen you're working on. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not, but once you put it in, it does stay in. So now we can see down here that we have a summary of the previous day's cost, or a summary for today's cost for everything. And so basically we're done. We don't really have to do anything more than that. So let's go back to another day here, and let's say that tomorrow is we're going to come and we're going to do this again. So I go on 4, and I'm adding a new day, and so I go here, and it says, you can see how it's cleared everything out here, and I copy previous and update so that I have all the header information for that day in there, and I may decide that I want to go ahead and do my costs now. Well, the quickest way for me to do my costs is to copy the previous day's cost and then make any changes that may be necessary. For example, maybe we have a standby charge instead of an engineering charge, and we could change that to something else if we wanted to. But for right now, let's take a look at the reports that we get generated from all of this, and we're going to go to the reports. There's 2 reports. There's a report, cost estimation detail, which we can use, which will break down all the charges for the entire job. You can see that this is a 4-page report up here, and it's a field estimate, and you can come through it. It breaks down every comment and gives you a grand total at the end of that. And it's a longish report, but it is a detailed report that has all of the items and information in it that you have put in. But there's a more concise report too, and this concise report is this field invoice summary, and we come into here. This report can be up to 8 pages long, and what it does is it looks for like charges and like coding, and it summarizes the number for that. So I have many day rate charges in here, but I have a bunch of different day rates for different things, and it has the maximum and the minimum date specified here, and then it summarizes how much I have for each one of those in there, and then it gives me a page summary. So you can see right here that I have a page summary right there, 230,000, and I could have gone and done more. So you can see I have 2 days, 2 engineering day charges here, and my sidekick's got 2 days as well, which you saw me just put in. And then I have a billing address down here for this, and there's one place where you put that in, and we did that when we started this, when we started the job. And then we have a address from where your business is, and with some phone number information on it, and you have some signature areas here. So this may or may not be a report that you want to use, but it is a report which has a nice concise billing to it, and it can be backed up by the signed daily reports as you go over the course of a job. And the summary of everything this can be an estimate, of course. It's not necessarily, it says invoice estimate summary. So, you know, the final billing is something which gets resolved by people beyond our level, generally speaking. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out right here, and we will now go ahead and take a look at some other features that are available in WinSURV2. Now we're going to discuss how you can go about and maintain a pipe tally in WinSURV, and you do that from the front screen by first selecting the job for which you want the pipe tally, which would normally be selected if you were already in process, and then you would go to the WinSURV companion and then select pipe tally. And once you select pipe tally, there's a few bits of information you need to fill in before you start calculating your pipe tally. One of them would be your Kelly height if you're working with a Kelly, and I'll put that in right now, and then we're going to put in a bottom hole assembly length, which would be right up to where your drill pipe starts. And if you are working with an MWD system and you want to track that depth, then you would go ahead and put in that. We'll say that our sensor is 55 feet above the bit. And then the start depth for which you want to maintain this tally. We'll say that we're starting from the surface here, so the start depth is 0. And so we're pretty much set up to begin adding information. We start with numbered pipe, and the pipe will be numbered from 1. And the next thing that we need to do is select whether or not we're going to be using that pipe, which of course we are, and then we put in the length. So the length here that I'm going to put in is 31 feet. And from that point on, the only thing that we need to do is move down this MD column and put in depths. So I'm going to just put in the same depths for everything that we have here. And I'm going to put in 5 or 6 joints. And you can see that it calculates things. I'll put in 9 joints. Make a correction there, 31. And so then we have the total pipe length. The length of the pipe is summarized in one column. And then that length plus the length of the bottom hole assembly is summarized in the bottom hole assembly depth. And then that length plus the bottom hole assembly plus the length of the Kelly is summarized here. And then that length of the pipe plus the bottom hole depth plus assembly plus the Kelly length minus the sensor distance tells us where the actual sensor measurement is going to be. Now in order to do something with this, we go ahead and we hit the tally report button, and we can see that we have a clean looking report here. This report is designed so that it can be printed out, and then you can cut around the perimeter of the report, and it's sized in such a way that it's easily taped or pasted into your tally book. And it provides pre-formed areas where you can write down your inclination, your azimuth, tool face, your weight on bit, and any other comment you may want to make. So the advantage to doing this is that you have, first of all, the accuracy of the computer, and the other thing is that presumably you've numbered your pipe, and let's say, as is normally the course of things on a job, you're picking up your pipe joint by joint or stand by stand. In this case, it's joint by joint. And number 4 has got a bad connection. Well, okay, so you don't want to renumber all of your pipe just because you took that out. So the easy thing to do is to take it out of the calculations. So by doing this, taking it out as usual, say we had a couple of joints here that were knocked around a bit, and we've taken them out and laid them aside, and we need to regenerate our tally report. And when we do that, the calculations are all appropriately made, and we have the problem joints that are shown here highlighted in red. And you'd have to print this out again, and you'd maybe repaste it in, which is perhaps a little bit annoying, but not nearly as annoying as getting off on your count or having to renumber your pipes. So this is designed to be a tool to help you keep accurate information on your tally, which is, as anybody who has been out in the field knows, sometimes much more complex task than it might seem. So hopefully you'll use this and enjoy it. Next, we are going to cover slide sheets. And slide sheets are generated directly from information which is captured in the daily activity which the directional driller enters. And you can see, of course, that we're entering our measured depths and our slides and circulating options as we go through the course of a job. And that over on the far right of the data grid where you input your daily information, there's an area where you can put in your inclination, your azimuth, and your dogleg severity. Now, one of the things that we have here in this particular job, I'm going to step through this job right here goes very deep, and I don't have any data, any survey information for it, but I am going to go through the process by which you would go ahead and import information directly from the survey file that you had maintained in WinSURV2. You could, conversely, if you don't have a survey file, just enter these numbers in directly for the inclination and azimuth, but you're going to have to figure them out. Now, obviously, the points, the measured depths for the slide points and the rotary drilling points are almost always going to be somewhat different than the actual survey points. And that's why it's necessary to interpolate what the values are. And the program can do that for you automatically. and you select import or link surveys from this screen right here. You can conversely choose it from the BHA items screen. And you come into here and you have two choices. Well, the legacy method of doing this was to import a .say file, which we covered in WinSURV, to import that file in here, and that file would come in. But since then, the program's been designed so that it can open up an existing .svy file and read a curve directly. So we're going to step through the process that you would do to link that up. And we're going to go to Browse, and then you go to a file that has the information that you want. And as I said, I don't have a survey file for this particular example job that we're using here, but I'll choose a file here, and then it would bring the file up down here in this area, and I would come here and I would choose the curve that is of interest to me. In this case, I'm going to choose this curve, and it has a list of surveys, and I can look at the surveys that are being presented here and calculated for me right here, and then correlate that to my daily activity for the bottom hole assembly that I currently have being pointed to, in this case BHA number 13. Now, as I stated, I don't have 18,000 feet of survey, an actual survey for me to use here, but that's all I would have to do in order to get the points calculated, and making sure that I have the right set of data, matching data sets here, and then I go done, and all those numbers over here in the inclination and azimuth would be calculated for me. So that's a useful tool. And to generate your slide reports, you go to your report generator, and there are two different slide reports that you have. One of them is for the bottom hole assembly. In this case, this will be for bottom hole 13. And these numbers over here will be interpolated for you properly, and then it will give you a summary of that, of the total ROP and rotary drill and percentages and all that you need. And then the other one is for the other job is for the entire job, where you can go through and you can look at everything. You can see that in the earlier whoever had done this file originally had gone ahead and done the appropriate numbers. They put numbers, and it looks like they may have gone ahead and typed in some numbers themselves.